Good morning.
Morning.
We're back in Revelation this morning. Chapter 21, verses 9 through 14. Revelation 21, 9 through 14. Then one of the seven angels, who have the seven bowls full of the seven last plagues, came and spoke with me, saying, "Come here, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb." And he carried me away in the Spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. Her brilliance was like precious stone, as a stone of crystal clear jasper. It had a great and high wall. It had 12 gates, and at those gates 12 angels. And names have been written on those gates, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the sons of Israel. There were 3 gates on the east, and 3 gates on the north, and 3 gates on the south, and 3 gates on the west. And the wall of the city had 12 foundation stones, and on them were the 12 names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. Father, help me this morning to present your word clearly. Help us to understand what it is saying to us. Thank you for the marvelous promises that we have in your word. Help us to live in light of them. Help us to respond in a way that honors you. In Jesus' name, amen. You may be seated. The city that God has prepared for us is breathtaking to even imagine. And in the coming couple weeks, at least next week, we're going to see a fuller picture. And it just gets more and more glorious. And I'm sure that even our imaginations fall short of what it will actually be like. But 3 very connected words come to mind when I read this passage. Beauty, worth, and purity. Beauty, worth, and purity. A fine gemstone has all 3. Beauty, worth, purity. And we sometimes downplay the value of beauty because we know that it can often be deceptive, like the beauty of Babylon, which is only skin deep. And we also know that inner beauty doesn't always show itself. It can sometimes be veiled, hidden behind a less beautiful outside. Even Jesus himself had no stately form or majesty that we should be drawn to him. When he came the first time, he will. And in the new creation, there will be no disguises. Everything will appear as it really is. That which is pure and valuable will be beautiful as well. And God cares about beauty. Exodus 28:2. He says, "You shall make holy garments for Aaron, your brother." He says this to Moses. "For glory and for beauty." And if you read through the instructions of the tabernacle, it's clear that God wanted beauty to be a part of every aspect of his worship. And it wasn't just the appearance of the priest's clothing that was to be good in appearance, that mattered to God. Leviticus 21:17 through 23 Leviticus 21, 17 through 23. God speaks to Moses again and says, "Speak to Aaron, saying, no man of your seed throughout their generations who has a defect shall come near to offer the food of his God. For no one who has a defect shall come near, a blind man or a lame man, or he who has a disfigured face or any deformed limb, or a man who has a broken foot or broken hand, or a hunchback or a dwarf, or one who has a defect in his eye, or eczema, or scabs, or crushed testicles. No man among the seed of Aaron the priest who has a defect shall approach to bring near the offerings to Yahweh by fire. Since he has a defect, he shall not approach to bring near the food of his God. He may eat the food of his God, both the most holy and of the holy. Only he shall not go in to the veil or approach the altar because he has a defect, so that he will not profane my sanctuaries. For I am Yahweh who makes them holy." Like the animals they sacrificed, a priest had to be without blemish. And if you remember in the history class we did a little bit ago, we learned about a man who wanted to be high priest, a rival high priest, who cut off or bit off the ears of the man who had been high priest so that he could not be high priest again. And that was the rule. And that may seem unfair, that a physical defect could disqualify you from serving as a priest, from offering sacrifices. A man can't help it if he has a defect. But what did a blemish represent? Sin. And who did the priest and the sacrifice he offered represent? Christ. Hebrews 9:14, Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without blemish to God. John saw the city come down like a bride adorned for her husband. And how is the bride of Christ adorned? If you remember back in chapter 19, verse 8, it says, "It was given to her to clothe herself in fine linen, bright and clean, for the fine linen is the righteous acts of the saints." When we see the beauty of the New Jerusalem, what we're really seeing is its purity and holiness on display. And as we know from the end of this chapter, from verse 27, nothing defiled will ever come into it. Beauty, purity, and worth are not always found together in this life, but they come together in the bride of Christ as they come together in him. Verse 9. Then one of the seven angels, who have the seven bowls full of the seven last plagues, came and spoke with me, saying, "Come here, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb." And he carried me away in the Spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. Her brilliance was like precious stone, as a stone of crystal clear jasper. John mentioned seeing this city earlier, very briefly, in verse 2. I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, made ready as a bride adorned for her husband. Now we're going to get a closer look, a fuller description of this city that is called a bride. And there is an obvious parallel between this, verses 9 and 10, that we just read, and something we read a few months back in chapter 17. And listen to the similarities and the differences. here in chapter 17, verses 1 and 2. 1 through 3, actually. Then one of the 7 angels who have the 7 bowls came and spoke with me, saying, "Come here, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth committed sexual immorality, and those who dwell on the earth were made drunk with the wine of her sexual immorality. And he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness. Then I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, full of blasphemous names, having 7 heads and 10 horns." So it's one of these same 7 angels who have the 7 bowls. It doesn't say for sure that it is the same angel, but one of the same group, saying very similar things. "Come here and I will show you." And carrying him away in the spirit to a place where he can see a special vision. These 2 visions go together. They contrast with each other. In chapter 17, we saw a woman who represented a city, the great city that has a kingdom over the kings of the earth. And here we see a city described as a woman, as a bride. And in both cases, the woman is a picture, the city is the real thing. The city is what it literally is. And these 2 cities are absolutely opposed to each other. You cannot be a citizen of both. This time, John is not carried into a wilderness. He is carried to a high mountain where he could see clearly. And Ezekiel had a similar experience. Ezekiel 40, verse 2. "In the visions of God, he brought me into the land of Israel and caused me to rest on a very high mountain. And on it to the south, there was a structure like a city." And he goes on to describe the city. And what Ezekiel saw was Jerusalem, as it would be in the future. He saw Jerusalem as it would be in the time of the millennium. And it also had 12 gates, 3 on each side, 1 for each of the 12 tribes. And there they're labeled at the very, very end of the book of Ezekiel, and you can see which tribe goes with which gate. But those gates were not made of pearls. And the city was much, much smaller. It wasn't even a full 1.5 miles on each side. And the city John saw was not built on earth. We see it coming down out of heaven from God. That's where it was constructed, and then it is transported, it is lowered to earth, having the glory of God. God himself dwells in the city, which is why we saw last time the tabernacle of God is among men. He is going to live now with them. And light scatters from the city like light bouncing off a diamond. Her brilliance was like precious stone, as a stone of crystal clear jasper. And jasper can mean a couple things. It might not be exactly what we call jasper today. Some people have thought that it might actually be diamond that is meant, since it's called clear. But it is one of the same words used to describe the appearance of God himself in Revelation 4:3. The New Jerusalem will share his eternal and uncorruptible glory. And the city was called New Jerusalem. In verse 2, the holy city, New Jerusalem. Here, it's simply called the holy city, Jerusalem. And that's probably what we'll end up calling it, just Jerusalem. It's going to, at that time, be the only city with that name. Verse 12, it had a great and high wall. It had 12 gates, and at those gates 12 angels. And names have been written on those gates, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the sons of Israel. There were 3 gates on the east, and 3 gates on the north, and 3 gates on the south, and 3 gates on the west. Not only is the city beautiful and bright with the glory of God, the city is secure. It has a great and high wall. A city without walls is vulnerable to attack. What the Iron Dome does for Israel now, the walls of Jerusalem used to do, which is why the enemies of Israel kept tearing those walls down and why the kings of Israel kept building them up again. But the obvious question is, who's going to attack the city? Who's going to attack the New Jerusalem or try to get in when they're not supposed to? And I don't think anyone is. But this still communicates something very important about the city. The whole creation is going to be holy to God, but this is the most holy place. The Holy of Holies in the temple was, like the New Jerusalem, a perfect cube, the same length, width, and height. 1 Kings 6:20 says, "Now the inner sanctuary was 20 cubits in length, 20 cubits in width, and 20 cubits in height, and overlaid with pure gold." Only those who are absolutely pure, who have been made as pure as God himself, will be allowed into the city. There are 12 gates, each made out of one giant pearl, as we'll see later. But they're all guarded. They all have angels stationed outside, like the entrance to the Garden of Eden. And this is an important image for us to get into our heads, I think. God has never lowered and will never lower his standards. He will always hate sin. He will never allow even the smallest trace of it into his presence. When we say that God accepts sinners, we do not mean that God accepts sin, that he has a lenient attitude toward it, and that we should as well. The angel guarding the tree of life has not retired. He has not put down his sword and said, "All right, you can come back into the garden now. God changed his mind. You can all have as much fruit as you like." That's not the gospel. This is the gospel. The way to the tree of life is still guarded. The flaming sword is just as deadly as it ever was, but when we walk up to the gate, the angel nods respectfully and lets us pass because we wear the righteousness of Christ. The gospel call goes out to everyone. But it is not simply a call to come into the presence of God. It is a call to be made holy by Christ so that you can come into his presence. God doesn't just forgive us. He makes us beautiful, valuable, and pure, fit to live in his presence. The New Jerusalem is a holy city made for holy people. Verses 12 through 14. It had a great and high wall. It had 12 gates, and at those gates 12 angels, and names have been written on those gates, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the sons of Israel. There were 3 gates on the east, and 3 gates on the north, and 3 gates on the south, and 3 gates on the west. And the wall of the city had 12 foundation stones, and on them were the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. It's nice when things are labeled so you don't have to guess what they represent. The 12 gates bear the names of the 12 tribes of the sons of Israel. And I mentioned earlier, Jerusalem will have 12 gates named for the 12 tribes in the millennium too. And much earlier than that, even in the wilderness. The Israelites would camp in a square around the tabernacle. 3 tribes on each side. This is a very common pattern. And this city is called New Jerusalem for a reason. It is the hope of Israel. It is the place where God will live with them forever. Psalm 48:8. As we have heard, so we have seen in the city of Yahweh of hosts, in the city of our God, God will establish her forever. Psalm 125, verses 1 and 2. Those who trust in Yahweh are as Mount Zion, which will not be shaken, but will abide forever. As the mountains surround Jerusalem, so Yahweh surrounds his people from now until forever. Psalm 132, 13 through 14. Yahweh has chosen Yahweh has chosen Zion. He has desired it for his habitation, for the place where he is going to live. This is my resting place forever. Here I will inhabit, for I have desired it. And could keep going. There are many, many other promises as well, other places where God has said that Jerusalem, that the nation of Israel will remain forever. And those promises will be fulfilled partly during the millennium, but they will be fulfilled fully when he dwells with them forever in the New Jerusalem. This is their hope. This is the city that Abraham and the other Old Testament saints were looking forward to. But it is also the city that we are looking forward to. It is just as much ours as theirs. The wall of the city not only had 12 gates, but 12 foundation stones. And on them were the 12 names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. Though the city comes down from heaven, it has foundation stones. It is designed to rest upon the earth. And these foundation stones are absolutely massive. In some illustrations, you may see them layered on top of each other, and that's a possibility. It's more likely that they'll be next to each other, that there's a different color in between each of the gates, like 4 on the corners, and then between the gates, the other 8, going all the way around. And we find out what these stones are made of in verses 19 and 20. The foundation stones of the city were adorned with every kind of precious stone. The first foundation stone was jasper, the second sapphire, the third chalcedony, the fourth emerald, the fifth sardonyx, the sixth sardius, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth topaz, the 10th chrysoprase, and the 11th jacinth, and the 12th amethyst. And these stones represent the 12 apostles. And which stone represents which apostle is not important. Whether one of these stones represents Paul or Matthias is not important. What matters is that these are our spiritual ancestors, our spiritual foundation. The ones to whom Jesus entrusted the good news at the beginning, and through whom that good news came to us. Ephesians 2:19 and 20 says, "So then you are no longer strangers and sojourners, but you are fellow citizens with the saints, and are of God's household, having been built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Christ Jesus himself being the cornerstone." The picture is a little bit different there, but it's the same idea. And once we were strangers and outcasts, but we have been brought near by the blood of Christ. We are on this same foundation. And this book, the book of Revelation, was written to 7 churches that were made up mostly of Gentiles. These are promises to us. We have a place in the New Jerusalem. Galatians 4:25 through 26 says, the present Jerusalem is in slavery with her children, but the Jerusalem above is free, and she is our mother. Hebrews 12:22 and 23. You have come not to Mount Sinai, but to Mount Zion, and to the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to myriads of angels, to the festal gathering and assembly of the firstborn who are enrolled in heaven, and to God, the judge of all, and to the spirits of the righteous made perfect. He has prepared the city for us, and he will make us perfect so that we can live there with him. Do you ever wish that God would stop trying to change you so much? That he would accept you just the way you are? And he does accept you and love you just the way you are. But that's why he wants to change you. Because he sees what you can become through his transforming power. Something greater than you can currently imagine. Something beautiful and valuable and pure.
Let's stand. Instead of looking at the temporal around us, we should look for the eternal, and that's changing our hearts.
First Peter 1:14, as obedient children, not being conformed to the former lusts which were yours in ignorance, but like the Holy One who called you, be holy yourselves also in all your conduct, because it is written, you shall be holy, for I am holy. And if you address as Father the one who impartially judges according to each one's work, conduct yourselves in fear during the time of your sojourn, your earthly life, knowing that you were not redeemed with corruptible things like silver or gold from your futile conduct inherited from your forefathers, but with precious blood, as of a lamb, unblemished and spotless, the blood of Christ. He says, be holy, for I am holy. But he says that to people who have been redeemed, who have already been redeemed by the spotless, unblemished Lamb. And we're never going to be in this life completely free from sin. We have a new nature from God inside us, but we have that old nature along with it, and we're going to struggle. We have this great and amazing call to be holy like him. But before that even becomes a possibility, we have to accept the sacrifice that was made for us. Jesus lived a perfect life. He was God himself by nature. And he died in our place to take the punishment for our sin so that we could be right with God when we trust in him. But the men come for communion.